The Pakistan Air Force, PAF, is the aerial warfare branch of the Pakistan Armed Forces, primarily tasked with the aerial defense of Pakistan with the secondary role of providing air support to the Pakistan Army and the Pakistan Navy. The PAF also has a tertiary role of providing strategic air transport and logistics capability to Pakistan. The PAF employs approximately 65,000 full-time personnel, including approximately 3,000 pilots, and currently operates 1,032 aircraft. Its primary mandate and mission is to provide, in synergy with other inter-services, the most efficient, assured and cost-effective aerial defense of Pakistan. Since its establishment in 1947, the Pakistan Air Force has been involved in various combat operations, providing aerial support to inter-services operations and relief efforts. Under the Article 243, the Constitution of Pakistan appoints the President of Pakistan as the civilian commander-in-chief. The Chief of Air Staff, CS, by statute a 4-star Air Chief Marshal, is appointed by the President with the consultation and confirmation needed from the Prime Minister of Pakistan. The Pakistan Air Force is currently commanded by Air Chief Marshal Sohail Rahman. On September 7, 2015, Pakistan became the 9th nation to develop and use an armed unmanned combat aerial vehicle, drone, named Burrak. Pakistan first started exploring the drone technology when it acquired Falco drones from Selex Galileo of Italy for $40 million in 2008. Since then, Pakistan have been developing Falco in Pakistan Aeronautical Complex in collaboration with the Italian firm. Then, Burrak was developed, which was based on the same Falco technology. By March 2015, Pakistan was able to test-fire Burrak armed with an air-to-surface missile named Bark with pinpoint precision. Burrak were used majorly during the Operations RBAZB. The Turkish Air Force is the aerial warfare service branch of the Turkish Armed Forces. The Turkish Air Force can trace its origins back to June 1911 when it was founded by the Ottoman Empire. However, the Air Force as it is known today did not come into existence until 1923 with the creation of the Republic of Turkey. The Turkish Armed Forces initiated a $160 modernization program. $45 billion is earmarked to go to the overhaul of the Turkish Air Force. As part of this program, Ankara aims to commission new combat aircraft, consisting of TITFX and Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, and helicopters, consisting of heavy lift, attack, medium lift and light general-purpose helicopters. According to Flight International and the International Institute for Strategic Studies, the Turkish Air Force has an active strength of 60,000 military personnel and operates approximately 668 manned aircraft, 2014. On July 11, 2002, Turkey became a Level 3 partner of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, JSF, development program, and on January 25, 2007, Turkey officially joined the production phase of the JSF program, agreeing to initially purchase 116 F-35A Lightning II aircraft. Turkey also has a national 5th-generation fighter aircraft project named the TITFX. On March 28, 2013, the Turkish Secretary of the Defense Industry of the Ministry of National Defense of Turkey Murat Bayar announced intentions to replace the F-16 fighter with domestically produced fighters by 2023. Havelsan of Turkey and Boeing of the United States are in the process of developing a next-generation, high-altitude ballistic missile defense shield. It is envisaged that the system will be used by the United States, Turkey and other NATO member states. The Egyptian Air Force is the aviation branch of the Egyptian Armed Forces, is responsible for all airborne defense missions and operates all military aircraft, including those used in support of the Egyptian Army, Egyptian Navy and the Egyptian Air Defense Forces, created as a separate command in the 1970s, coordinates with the Air Force to integrate air and ground air defense operations. The EF is headed by an Air Marshal, Lieutenant General equivalent. Currently, the commander of the Egyptian Air Force is Air Marshal Yunus Hamid. The Egyptian Army Air Service was formed in 1932, and became an independent air force in 1937. It had little involvement in the Second World War. From 1948 to 1973 it took part, with generally mediocre results, in 4 separate wars with Israel, as well as the quasi-war of attrition. It also supported the Egyptian army during the North Yemen Civil War and the Libyan-Egyptian War of 1977. From 1977 to 2011 it saw virtually no combat, but has participated in numerous exercises, including Operation Bright Star. Since 1992 the EF has also provided aviation support for the police and other national security organizations engaged in the war against terrorism. In recent years the Air Force has acted in the Sinai insurgency, the Second Libyan Civil War and the intervention in the Yemen. The Egyptian Air Force primary role is the air defense of the nation, with secondary tasks of strike and army support operations. The Egyptian Air Force provides official government transport and carries out international search and rescue operations in the desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Red Sea. Egypt is in an advanced stage of negotiations for the purchase of the Russian strategic airlifter Il-76 MD-90A. The first export contracts of the aircraft were to be signed within 4 to 6 months after the MAX 2015 airshow. Airbus Defence and Space received from Egypt its first order of A400M. Egypt asked the company to have the A400M as soon as possible. Rosoboronexport and the Russian helicopters holding are engaged in consultations with their Egyptian partners concerning a possible acquisition of Kamov Ka-52K ship helicopters for the 2 Mistral-class helicopter carriers that Egypt has agreed to buy from France. An Egyptian Air Force delegation had access to the helicopter before the official opening of the MAX 2015. The French Air is the Air Force of the French Armed Forces. A service arm of the French Army, then was made an independent military arm in 1934. The number of aircraft in service with the French Air Force varies depending on source. However, sources from the French Ministry of Defense give a figure of 1,305 aircraft in 2017. The Minister of Defense is responsible for execution of military policy. He is advised by the Chief of Staff of the Armies in regard to the use of forces and the control of military operations. The Chief of Staff of the French Air Force determines the Air Force doctrines and advises the Chief of Staff of the Armies how to deploy French air assets. He is responsible for the preparation and logistics support of the Air Force. The Chief of Staff of the French Air Force determines Air Force doctrine and advises the Chief of the Defense Staff how to deploy French air assets. He is responsible for the preparation and logistics support of the Air Force. The Chief of Staff of the French Air Force is assisted by the Air Force Staff and by its subordinate services. Finally, the Chief of Staff of the French Air Force is assisted by the inspection of the Air Force and by the Air Force Health Service inspection. The airbase command levels are the combat assets of the ALA. An airbase commander has authority over all units stationed on his base. Depending on the unit's tasks, this means that he is responsible for approximately 600 to 2,500 personnel. Flying activity in France is carried out by a network of bases, platforms and French air defense radar systems. It is supported by bases, which are supervised and maintained by staff, centers of operations, warehouses, workshops, and schools. Both in France and abroad, bases have almost similar infrastructure to provide standardized support. This operational mode allows fast and easy creation of air bases outside France. Overseas, fighters, transport aircraft and helicopters allow quick response to any request for assistance that falls within international agreements. On average, a base platform, made up of about 1,500 personnel, nearly 3,500 people including family, provides a yearly economic boost to its area of about 60 million euros. Consequently, determining the sites for airbases constitutes a major part of regional planning. Thank you. The Republic of Korea Air Force, also known as the ROK Air Force, is the aerial warfare service branch of South Korea, operating under the Republic of Korea Ministry of National Defense. South Korea will resume a once-aborted program to develop mid-altitude unmanned aerial vehicles to bolster its monitoring capabilities of North Korea's missile and nuclear programs. The state-funded Agency for Defense Development launched the Indigenous Drone Development Project in 2006 and made a prototype in May 2010. The medium-altitude, long-endurance UAV is designed to fly at an altitude of up to 10 kilometers and its radar can scan as far as 100 kilometers. Korea hopes to complete development of the combat drones by 2018. The overall performance of the drones under development in Korea is believed to be similar to the MQ-9 Reaper. The Republic of Korea Air Force Defense Artillery Command transferred from the Republic of Korea Army's Air Defense Artillery and was established as a basic branch on July 1, 1991. Following the establishment of the Republic of Korea Air Force Defense Artillery Command as a separate service in 1991, the Army began to develop further its own air defense artillery assets in support of ground operations. Thank you.
The Japan Air Self-Defense Force is the aviation branch of the Japan Self-Defense Forces, responsible for the defense of Japanese airspace and for other aerospace operations. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force carries out combat air patrols around Japan, while also maintaining an extensive network of ground and air early warning radar systems. The branch also has an aerobatic team known as Blue Impulse and has recently become involved in providing air transport in several United Nations peacekeeping missions. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force had an estimated 50,324 personnel as of 2017, and as of 2017 operated 1,594 aircraft. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force maintains an integrated network of radar installations and air defense direction centers throughout the country known as the Basic Air Defense Ground Environment. The nation relies on fighter interceptor aircraft and surface-to-air missiles to intercept hostile aircraft. Both of these systems were improved from the beginning of the late 1980s. Outmoded aircraft were replaced in the early 1990s with more sophisticated models, and Nike J missiles have been replaced with the modern Patriot PA-C-2 and PA-C-3 system. The Japan Air Self-Defense Force also provides air support for ground and sea operations of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force and air defense for bases of all the forces. Base defenses were upgraded in the late 1980s with new surface-to-air missiles, modern anti-aircraft artillery and new fixed and mobile aircraft shelters. Thank you.
The Indian Air Force is the air arm of the Indian Armed Forces. It is the world's fourth largest air force in terms of both personnel and aircraft. Its primary responsibility is to secure Indian airspace and to conduct aerial warfare during a conflict. It was officially established on October 8, 1932 as an auxiliary air force of the British Empire, and the prefix Royal was added in 1945 in recognition of its services during World War II. After India became independent from the United Kingdom in 1947, the Royal Indian Air Force served the Dominion of India, with the prefix being dropped when India became a republic in 1950. Since independence, the Indian Air Force has been involved in 4 wars with neighboring Pakistan and 1 with the People's Republic of China. Other major operations undertaken by the Indian Air Force include Operation Vijay, Operation Meghdoot, Operation Cactus and Operation Pumale. Apart from conflicts, the Indian Air Force has been an active participant in United Nations peacekeeping missions. The Indian Air Force is divided into 5 operational and 2 functional commands. Each command is headed by an air officer commanding-in-chief with the rank of Air Marshal. The purpose of an operational command is to conduct military operations using aircraft within its area of responsibility, whereas the responsibility of functional commands is to maintain combat readiness. The number of aircraft in the Indian Air Force has been decreasing from the late 1990s due to retirement of older aircraft and several crashes. To deal with the depletion of force levels, the Indian Air Force has started to modernize its fleet. This includes both the upgrade of existing aircraft, equipment and infrastructure, as well as induction of new aircraft and equipment, both indigenous and imported. As new aircraft enter service and numbers recover, the Indian Air Force plans to have a fleet of 42 squadrons. Thank you. The People's Liberation Army Air Force is the aerial warfare service branch of the People's Liberation Army, the armed forces of the People's Republic of China. The PL Air Force was officially established on November 11, 1949. The PLA Air Force has a strength of around 398,000 personnel and is the largest air force in Asia. With ongoing modernization, all older aircraft types in service are quickly being phased out and emphasis being placed on developing modern 4th, 5th generation fighters to replace them, along with 5th generation fighters in the near future. The People's Liberation Army Air Force operates a large and varied fleet of some 3,010 plus aircraft, of which around 2,100 are combat aircraft, fighter, attack and bombers. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, People's Liberation Army Air Force combat pilots acquire an average of 100-150 flying hours per year. For a list of aircraft no longer flown by the People's Liberation Army Air Force, see List of historic aircraft of the People's Liberation Army Air Force. In the late 1980s, the primary mission of the People's Liberation Army Air Force was the defense of the mainland, and most aircraft were assigned to this role. A smaller number of ground attack and bomber units were assigned to air interdiction and possibly close air support, and some bomber units could be used for nuclear delivery. The force had only limited military airlift and aerial reconnaissance capabilities. In the early 1990s, the PLA Air Force began a program of modernization, motivated by the collapse of the Soviet Union, as well as the possibility of military conflict with the Republic of China and perhaps also involving the United States. This process began with the acquisition of Su-27s in the early 1990s and the development of various fourth-generation aircraft, including the domestic J-10 and the FC-1. The PLAF also strove to improve its pilot training and continued to retire obsolete aircraft. This resulted in a reduction of the overall number of aircraft in the PLA Air Force with a concurrent increase in quality of its air fleet. The 21st century has seen the continuation of the modernization program with China's huge economic growth. It acquired 76 Su-30 MKKs from 2000 to 2003. The Russian Air Force is a branch of the Russian Aerospace Forces, the latter being formed on the August 1, 2015 with the merger of the Russian Air Force and the Russian Aerospace Defense Forces. The modern Russian Air Force was originally established on May 7, 1992 following Boris Yeltsin's creation of the Ministry of Defense. However, the Air Force can trace its lineage and traditions back to the Imperial Russian Air Service and the Soviet Air Forces. Since the merger between the Russian Air Force and the Russian Aerospace Defense Forces on the August 1, 2015, the highest military office of the new Russian Aerospace Forces is titled Commander of the Aerospace Forces. The precise quantitative and qualitative composition of the Russian Air Force is unknown, and figures include both serviceable and unserviceable aircraft as well as those placed into storage or sitting in reserve. The Flight Global estimated that there was about 3,794 aircraft in inventory in this year. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, share of modern armament in the Air Force had reached about 35% during 2014. The United States Air Force is the Aerial Warfare Service branch of the United States Armed Forces and one of the 7 American uniformed services. Initially part of the United States Army, the United States Air Force was formed as a separate branch of the military on September 18, 1947 under the National Security. It is the most recent branch of the United States military to be formed. The United States Air Force is the largest and one of the most technologically advanced air forces in the world. The branch articulates its core functions as nuclear deterrence operations, special operations, air superiority, global integrated ISR, space superiority, command and control, cyberspace superiority, personnel recovery, global precision attack, building partnerships, rapid global mobility and agile combat support. The United States Air Force is a military service organized within the Department of the Air Force, one of the 3 military departments of the Department of Defense. The Air Force is headed by the Civilian Secretary of the Air Force, who reports to the Secretary of Defense, and is appointed by the President with Senate confirmation. The highest-ranking military officer in the Department of the Air Force is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, who exercises supervision over Air Force units, and serves as a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Air Force combat and mobility forces are assigned, as directed by the Secretary of Defense, to the combatant commanders, and neither the Secretary of the Air Force nor the Chief of Staff have operational command authority over them. The United States Air Force provides air support for surface forces and aids in the recovery of troops in the field. As of 2017, the service operates more than 13,762 military aircraft, 806 ICBMs and 83 military satellites. It has a $161 billion budget with 313,242 active duty personnel, 197 civilian employees, 69,200 Air Force Reserve personnel, and 105,500 Air National Guard personnel. Due to the budget sequestration, the United States Air Force was forced to ground many of its squadrons. The commander of Air Combat Command, General Mike Hostage, indicated that the United States Air Force must reduce its F-15 and F-16 fleets and eliminate platforms like the A-10 Thunderbolt in order to focus on a fifth-generation jet fighter future. In response to squadron groundings and flight time reductions, many Air Force pilots have opted to resign from active duty and enter the Air Force Reserve and Air National Guard while pursuing careers in the commercial airlines where they can find flight hours on more modern aircraft. Specific concerns include a compounded inability for the Air Force to replace its aging fleet, and an overall reduction of strength and readiness. The United States Air Force attempted to make these adjustments by primarily cutting the Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve aircraft fleets and their associated manpower, but Congress reversed this initiative and the majority of the lost manpower will come from the active forces. However, Congress did allow for $208 million of reprogramming from fleet modernization to enable some portion of the third of the grounded fleet to resume operations. The United States Air Force has over 13,762 aircraft in service as of 2017. Until 1962, the Army and Air Force maintained one system of aircraft naming, while the United States Navy maintained a separate system. In 1962, these were unified into a single system heavily reflecting the Army Air Force method. For more complete information on the workings of this system, refer to United States Department of Defense Aerospace Vehicle Designation. Thank you.